Welcome to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast, where stories bloom from local flower fields and home gardens. I'm your host, Jennifer Galizia of the Flowering Farmhouse. I'm a backyard gardener turned flower farmer located in Hood River, Oregon. Join us for heartfelt journeys shared by flower farmers and backyard gardeners. Each episode is like a vibrant garden, cultivating wisdom and joy through flowers. From growing your own backyard garden to supporting your local flower farmer, the Backyard Bouquet is your fertile ground for heartwarming tales and expert cut flower growing advice. All right, flower friends, grab your gardening gloves, garden snips, or your favorite vase because it's time to let your backyard bloom. Hey, fellow dahlia growers, as the seasons start to change, it's almost time to put our dahlias to bed for the winter and start planning next year's gardens. Interested in joining a community of supportive dahlia enthusiasts? Be sure to check out the Dahlia Patch. To thank my podcast listeners, I'm offering a 1-month free trial. Just click the link in the show notes to join. The Dahlia Patch is an interactive online community focused on hands-on learning, featuring monthly live trainings, interactive Q&A sessions, and regular monthly live chats to keep our green thumbs busy all year round. Whether you're new to dahlias or a seasoned grower, you'll always find new techniques to master and planning tips for the season ahead. Join the Dahlia Patch today by following the link in our show notes and grow your dahlia gardening network. Hope to see you in the Dahlia Patch. Welcome back to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast. Today, I'm excited to be chatting with my friend, Trina McAlexander, a third-generation farmer from Mt.View orchards in the majestic Parkdale, Oregon. Trina has beautifully woven her rich family heritage with innovative approaches, adding a vibrant U-pick flower field alongside her family's traditional fruit orchards. After years of being a nurse practitioner, Trina has returned to her roots to continue her family's legacy and has launched Grateful Vineyard, Mount Hood's first winery, cidery, and brewery, along with a wedding venue. In addition to Grateful Vineyards and the wedding venue, Trina has added U-pick sunflowers, tulips, and dahlias to her family farm. Trina truly embodies the spirit of modern farming by blending agriculture, hospitality, and community together. Trina, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, Jen, I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness. Well, for everyone listening, Trina has been a friend of mine for probably almost a decade now through the wedding industry in Hood River. Trina's about 20 minutes away from me, and her farm is truly gorgeous. It's at the base of Mount Hood. If you're ever in the Columbia River Gorge, you have to come see it because it will take your breath away. So, Trina, can you begin by telling us about that moment that you decided to return to your family farm and run the orchard?
Yeah, I think that legacy farms or farms like over 100 years are special in the sense that you never know if the next generation has an interest or wants to carry on the story. But I started having dreams when I was like 8 years old, 9 years old, that I was walking through the orchard as an adult and sort of dreaming, like using the acreage that we had as a canvas to dream again about all the different things we could do here. And it was a really like pivotal dream in my life. I know we don't always remember all of our dreams at night, but it was pretty clear to me. I had it a few times, and I just really felt excited about the idea of what if I, found a career after college that was successful enough that I could bring in enough income that someday I could put this down payment down and start buying the farm from my parents.
That is amazing. That gives me goosebumps that you were just a young child and you were already having dreams of coming back home to the farm. So you grew up at Mt.View Orchards.
Yeah. It was all about, bikes outside, making mud pies and changing irrigation pipes and picking fruit right off the tree and eating it. And It was magical growing up here. I don't really have a lot of hard memories. The only kind of tender memories if we lost a dog or something. But for the most part, I grew up in an idyllic area.
Well, yes, you sure did. I mean, what a childhood to grow up at the base of Mount Hood, waking up every morning to sing the mountain and fruit trees all around you. It's gorgeous, and you're right on along the Hood River as well.
Yeah, the Middle Fork runs on the west side of our farm. We have about 51 acres on the west side of the Upper Hood River Valley. And if you were a bird and you could fly, you could get to the top of Mount Hood. It's 11 miles away if you had a direct path. The soil is incredible here because we've got that volcanic loam ash from Mount Hood. And then we've got Mount Hood, which is this gorgeous, majestic source of irrigation water. Three rivers come off of it, the west, the middle, and the east. And all of the farmers in this area are just blessed to have this source of water so we can grow food and flowers for our community.
Yes, it's truly amazing to have the farmers irrigation here. So let's go back to your childhood. You grew up in this magical space. Was it just fruit trees at that time?
Pretty much. I mean, my grandmother was a botanist that she got a botany degree. So I think that we always had a connection to flowers. She always had this epic garden at their home place was about a mile away. And so she was always sharing like foxglove or bringing over flowers, and she was always splitting bulbs and sharing them with her kids and grandkids. So I think my passion for flowers was really inspired by my grandmother and her botany, passion.
That's really beautiful. That's so neat that she lived so close that you got to grow up also going to her garden as well.
Mhm.
So you grew up and you left the farm for a while. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when I was like 17, 18, the last thing you want to do is stay where you were born. And I was like craving life in the city and wanted to go to Portland and different areas and wanted to travel, wanted to see the world. And so, yeah, I went to college, got a degree in psychology, and eventually I went into nursing school and finished with my master's in nursing. I have a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner degree. So I think I've always been drawn to nurturing things, whether it's people or plants or trees. Um, I'm naturally drawn to this idea of like being a good steward and helping people.
I love that. So you left the farm, you got your degree in nursing. And did you return to the gorge to be a nurse, or where did you start working as a nurse after college?
Yeah, so I mostly spent time in Portland area. I eventually bought a home there in Northeast Portland, and I worked for Multnomah County Health Department for many years, and I was socking away $200 every month, which feels like a lot when you're in your 20s. And with the goal that I needed to have a big enough down payment when I came back to the farm to help my parents retire and also be able to, pay for some of the dreams that I had on the farm. Because it's hard to get a loan if you're a farmer. I'm sure a lot of people know that with traditional banks, they're hard to work with. So I saved up this money. I would come back during harvest and help. I'd help with the farm stand. I'd take lots of walks around the perimeter and just sort of dream about what all the things could be. And when I was 37, I had enough income saved that I could come home and buy my family's farm.
That's really incredible. So your childhood dream, did it ever leave you for a while, or have you always just been set on coming back and buying the farm?
I don't know if it ever went away. I think sometimes it was buried like a seed. And when the time was right, I knew it would be time to come back. And I started having dreams again around 37 about coming home. Sorry if that sounds too mystical, but I think sometimes dreams are really important and God can speak through dreams. So, um, No, I really wasn't like thinking about rushing home. I wanted to travel, like go to different continents and see the world. I wanted to enjoy like the beauty of being in a city, like walking places and riding your bike and not needing a car and, the library and all of the amazing eateries nearby. And I really enjoyed my time in Portland. When I left Portland, it was bittersweet. I left a little piece of my heart there.
Sure. Well, thankfully, it's only about an hour away for us to get back
Right.
there. So at 37, this childhood dream, I mean, that seed that had been planted, we're going to go metaphorical here. That seed literally started growing roots for all of those years, almost 30 years. And it was finally ready to sprout and emerge from the ground and let you grow. Were your parents ready to just hand over the farm?
Yeah, I mean, we had actually had, we did some succession planning and we had a lot of meals together where we kind of talk about logistics and how much I would be paying a month. And they're holding the loan. So I pay them directly with a small amount of interest. And so we did a lot of planning with accountants and different people to kind of help us create a system that felt fair to them and felt fair to me. So it took probably a year and some to get it all kind of logistically lined out. And there were still some things we forgot, it's hard to imagine what's going to come up. Or I was working with a counselor as well because I was trying to um just work through some of my own nervous feelings about being a small business owner, leaving I'm still a nurse practitioner. I do that part time, but like kind of leaving the security of a job where you get a paycheck every month to the idea of stepping into the uncertainty of farming, where sometimes it's steady and other times, something happens to your soil and nothing blooms in that area or grows. So just kind of how am I going to stay my heart and calm my nerves. And I really started spending a lot of time in a gratitude journal and really focusing on gratefulness and gratitude. And that's important in my story because that's what I ended up calling, our farm.
I really love that. I never knew that part about Grateful Vineyards. I love that you said you started a gratitude journal. I, in my own journey over this last year of losing a farm, really had to dig deep to shift my own mindset because it's really hard. Like you have your highs and your lows with farming, and it's not like you have an employer that's still giving you a paycheck. Like you mentioned, the scariness of just jumping out on your own, but your mindset, how it changes when you start focusing on that gratitude and finding the positive things. At least in my journey, it feels like once you find a couple positive things and you start focusing on that, that's where your mind goes. And it seems like you become grateful for more and more things along the way. So I really love that you started that and that you named your business Grateful Vineyards. So can you tell us a little bit before we dive into the Grateful Vineyard part of it? Your parents let you buy the farm from them, which is incredible that you had that opportunity. And did you just say to yourself, I'm going to keep everything going the same as my parents have done it? Or were there any struggles trying to transition it to Trina's farm and not your parents' farm?
Yeah. Well, in all reality, we farm together. So my parents have been incredible and farm with my husband as well. And we're all like tackling all the jobs and kind of dividing and conquering. I've been less sometimes outside if I'm working as a nurse practitioner, but we're all just kind of working on all the jobs together. I never have really felt like it belonged to any one of us. I always feel like the farm going to outlive all of us. And so, I mean, we're just stewards and caretakers of it right now. Um, and we love sharing it with other people and so they can enjoy the abundance and the beauty of it. I feel like the transition was pretty smooth when I brought up some of my ideas because I looked at my parents' QuickBooks and, the finances, and they were primarily growing commercial pears, which is really popular in this area. But in the last, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, there's been a lot of insecurity with that and financial kind of huge like swings. So that's why, my practice of gratitude was so important because it's sort of like my anchor when there were so many things in farming that's out of your control, like global trade agreements, um, weather changes, frost or bees, or there's just so many things that you can do everything right. And one thing can happen and it can really kind of affect your outcome and your harvest. So I really wanted to focus on diversifying. And I think that's something that most farmers are naturally drawn to. Like I know when they first started planting pears in the valley, they'd always plant asparagus beside it or strawberries beside it. So they'd have a crop that they could harvest the following year. And that's kind of what my mindset was too, is we need to have, lots of eggs in the basket if something happens to the basket.
I love that. That's so wise. So you had this mindset after looking at their QuickBooks that you want to be prepared for whatever Mother Nature might throw your way or policy decisions could impact, because you don't just sell locally, your pears go outside of the area. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think they mostly go domestically or Canada and Mexico. You've seen them at Safeway before, Costco. But we don't have a ton of acreage anymore of commercial pears. It used to be like 40 acres, and now I think we're down to 10
Oh,
because of all
wow.
the little projects I've been doing and planting other things. And that's been very intentional. I know that, some farmers that would make them very anxious to do orchard renewal where you take something out and you put something in because for a while you don't have any income in that area. But we focus a lot on soil nutrition and like planting sunflowers and trying to put more nitrogen into the area, because soil is everything when you're growing. So anyway, we definitely, I mean, wild leaps of faith when we've added different businesses, when we planted something else. It's been a risk every time. And some of them have really worked out amazingly, like easy transition. There's been harder transitions, though, where we're like, I don't know if this is panning out. So, not everything in farming is a home run, but a lot of the things that we've transitioned have been amazing, like better than we could have hoped for.
Well, my mind's spinning with so many questions right now, but the first thing that comes to my mind is when Erin Benzicane from Floret joined us a few weeks ago. She said her parting words of wisdom were, "You will kill a lot of plants, and that is one of your greatest learning opportunities." And it kind of sounds like the same thing, like you just said. Not everything's going to stick, but you're going to learn what does, and you're going to be better off. So that's part of that diversifying of what you have done on your farm. So can we talk about some of that diversification and those different eggs that you've put out on the farm?
Yeah, definitely. Well, my parents had established a farm stand where there was an emphasis on being able to go out into the orchard and experience picking and you picking and selling that fruit at a pretty affordable rate. So we could basically not sell to a commercial packing house and do more farm direct. So we would have a better price for the farmer and a better price for the customer. So I wanted to expand that by putting in more cherries, by putting in different varieties of peaches, by adding blueberries. And then this is where we really started focusing on adding dahlias, adding sunflowers, adding tulips, hollyhocks, some culinary herbs, and different things that would have, I mean, the beauty of farming is the seasonality. So you kind of want something going for every season. Challenging in the winter, but you can still have, the fermentation piece, or, we're canning jams and sauces for the farm stand the following year. So we're always trying to have something that people are anticipating and the hope of what's like, come to the farm and see what's growing.
I love that. So you've done all of that. You've also added a wedding venue and Grateful Vineyards, which is where you grow your own grapes. Do you use your apples from the orchard for your cider?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the reasons why we started our cidery first because we wanted to eliminate apple waste because there's a certain amount of apples that you don't sell. So I was like, we should be making cider. So I started my first batch of cider in college where I had an unpasteurized jug of cider. I added nutrient and yeast to it, kind of stuck it under my bed until it totally fermented out. It takes about 28 days. And all I can say is that the cider's got much better
Oh my goodness.
than those beginning days. And so yeah, cider was first and it was pretty popular. We would sell out of it every year. Like then I'd say, okay, we need to make more. We need to make more totes. We need to double the totes. And for a while, figuring out the supply and demand was not something that we really mastered. We were failing at that pretty consistently year after year. But now we're at a point where we kind of know how much we need. We made it the intentional choice to not sell a ton off the farm. So we're selling mostly primarily farm direct through our tasting room or out of our farm stand. And the reason is if you're this small, you really can't compete with the larger, like Angry Orchard or the really big brands like that because you just don't have the capacity and the ability to do it. And the uniqueness of our cider is that it's so small and it's like full circle cider from the apples and the bees and the blossoms all the way to harvest, pressing, and then making hard cider. So we've always been leaning into the smallness and the boutiqueness of our cider.
Which probably allows you to offer a higher quality as well and a better experience for your guests when they come to the farm.
I think so. We get that feedback a lot. I mean, we've had some batches though, candidly, that we're like, whoa, what happened to this batch? But for the most part, we've dialed it in, and our brewer now, Bobby, does most of it. I'm not as involved in making the cider, just because running your businesses, you can't be in every bit of it. And he just made a grapefruit cider the other day that's phenomenal. He made a Marionberry that like sold out in 2 weeks. The blackberry went fast as well. Like he's been doing a lot of really special blends. Or we also have just our classic apple that we call Golden Row from a row of trees that my grandparents planted over 100 years ago. So they have really thick trunks. And it's just this really cool part of the orchard because it connects us kind of to the beginning of the farm.
Oh, I love that. What special history that row holds. Is that the row, because I've been to your venue before, is that the one right off of your house where there's the beautiful old trees?
Yeah, that's it. Where there's the Goldens and the Newtown Pippins. And yeah, it's just you can kind of almost feel it when you walk down that row. Like this, anyway, it's just a special spot on the farm. And so I wanted to call our cider that. And anyway, when I got excited about cider, I thought, you know what, we should plant some grapes. We should see if grapes grow up here. And everyone is like, they won't. You won't get the sugar bricks. It will not work. You can't grow wine grapes in Parkdale. I had nobody said a positive thing about it. Nobody. And I was like, well, why not try? Let's just put some in the ground. And if it works, great. If not, you can always make sparkling wine if your grapes don't get to the full capacity of the bricks. And so we started with Riesling in 2016. So I'd only been on the farm a couple years. And we kept adding, we added Pinot Noir, we added Pinot Gris, we added Cab Franc. We now have Chardonnay, we've got Gamay Noir. We've got other ones coming. We have like a Swiss varietal that I wanted to plant for my grandparents because they're Swiss immigrants. That's why they fell in love with Mount Hood, because it reminded them of home.
Oh.
And
Wow.
so anyway, so yeah, we've really like gone full, like all in on the grapes. So this idea of farming, fermentation, and hospitality has been the like three corded braid that we've been weaving together. And eventually we got our brewery license, and we've been making beer here since 2019, 2020. So it's been really fun to be able to get all those things going together. It's eliminating food waste. It's like any of the grain, leftover grain we feed to our animals. And so it's everything's kind of benefiting one another.
That is amazing. So at Grateful Vineyard, you have gone from being a cidery to also growing grapes for wine. And then you now have beer. You also, you didn't mention, but I have had and know that it's absolutely delicious. You have root beer and you have cream soda.
Yes. Yeah, no, there are some cult fan favorites of those sodas. I know my husband Kenny gets root beer pretty often, or my dad. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we wanted to have something for everyone. Not everybody is wanting to come for a tasting, or not everybody is wanting to um, do that aspect. But I'm like, well, we can have other refreshments that are enjoyable, that people can enjoy, and it doesn't have to be totally fixated on being a tasting room for flights and such.
Well, I know my daughter and I love to always we always get one cream soda and one root beer so that we can share them.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you have a secret ingredient in them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that makes us unique as a tasting room on a farm is we have to have fruit in everything. So we just definitely have either pear or peach in everything. So yeah, we put pears in all of our beer, our sodas, and we definitely are trying to just stay in alignment with the mission that everything has to have something we grow in it. And pears are so sort of neutral tasting. There's not really a distinguished taste that you can get when you add them to something, but they definitely can add sweetness. And I think it makes our root beer unique.
It absolutely does. And so that's what sweetens your root beer and cream soda. Is that correct?
There's also other sweeteners in it, but yeah, what makes it unique from the
Okay.
orchard. Yeah.
Well, it is delicious. I'll put in a plug for that because I do love it. I mean, I love all your drinks, but it's always fun to go with our 9-year-old daughter and get
Yeah.
cream soda and a root beer together. And your delicious pizza. You guys have a wood-fired pizza oven too.
Yeah. Pizzas makes for a great canvas for what you're growing on the farm. So, we have a little bit of food. We're not like a traditional restaurant.
So I know that with your pizza, you're able to use a lot of pears and peaches and cherries on your pizzas to kind of tie in from the orchard as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. We try to add unique ingredients like our fruits and, things like that.
Well, speaking of sweetness on the farm, I want to talk about, you mentioned your Brix levels on your grapes. I distinctively remember having a conversation with you. I think it was last summer while I was eating some pizza and drinking a root beer with my daughter. And I was asking you about pest pressure on the farm. And you're like, we don't really have much pest pressure. And then it led us down this rabbit hole and we started talking about Brix. Would you say that it's because of your soil health and this time you spend investing in your soil that you have high Brix levels for your grapes and low pest pressure?
Yeah, I think there's definitely truth to that, what you just said. I think for better or for worse, global warming is making it warmer here. So this is one of the hottest summers on record. And in order for grapes to get fully ripen, they have to have that heat, like tomatoes or other like nightshade vegetables. So yeah, because of the increased heat and all of that, we're definitely noticing our grapes are. I think our Pinot Noir got up to 25 bricks, and you want to get to at least 22.
Wow.
Cab Franc was 22, and our Pinot Gris was like 24. And we do a blend with those three right now. We're hoping to have single varietals where we have like just our Pinot Noir, just our Pinot Gris. But right now, because of the output, we combine them together to make an estate sparkling rosé. Excuse me. So yeah, I think that's the soil. It's the alpine mountain air. You get those winds that come off a mountain that you need airflow in a vineyard, and our vineyard is south facing, so that helps with that airflow and the heat. So that's what you need to grow great grapes.
Well, those bricks levels are incredible because I've done a lot of deep diving into the different bricks levels to try and keep pests off of my dahlias. And I know that it takes, I think it's like a 12 or a 13 on the bricks scale to keep grasshoppers and crickets off. And your dahlias are planted right next to your grapes. So do you have very low pest pressure on your dahlias also?
Well, I mean, one thing that might be unique to us that maybe is not for like a traditional flower farmer is we don't sell a lot of our flowers commercially. We do 100% you pick, or we're planting them for nutrition of the soil. So we're less concerned if something like a pest would come in, maybe more so at your farm, because you have your CSA and you have.
Mhm.
So I'll be honest with you, we don't do any pest management in our flowers.
Okay. And they
And
always look great when I'm there, though.
I mean, I guess one thing we do is we try to do um, some bone meal when we plant the. I don't know if there's bone meal pros or cons, but we do plant our dahlias with bone meal, and then the sunflowers with they're just right into our soil with no added nutrition or fertilizer. So
Okay. Well, you have amazing soil to begin with, and you're constantly planting, it seems, so that your soil's never really sitting bare in any of the areas.
yeah, I mean, we're trying to always do like the regenerative agriculture where we're always like trying to be low till and trying to promote soil nutrition. We usually get do you ever get your soil tested? I bet you do. We usually get our soil tested every a few years just to make sure our pH is balanced. And we've definitely had to adjust pH before because sometimes they can get too acidic or too alkaline.
Okay. I need to get mine tested again because I'm pretty sure that my pH is too high. I have so much greenery on my dahlias this year. And so I'm attributing that to too much pH in the soil. So we'll see um, what it comes back at this year.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to kind of, I mean, that's kind of yeah, every year you have a new year to start over and try again. I mean, that's one of the fun things about farming as well. Well, let's try this year and see how it helps.
Yes, it was actually Paul Matalucci from Apple Core Farms
Oh,
who joined the podcast. Oh, he was one of our first guests. I think it was episode 3. And when I asked him what his favorite thing about farming was, he said his favorite thing is that every year is an opportunity to start anew.
yeah. I like that too, especially when we're like pruning fruit trees or um, I definitely, it, it fills me with anticipation and hope for let's try this year and see what happens. And there's definitely years that we've tried things and we didn't see a different outcome. And there's other years we've tried things where like, that was magic. Let's do that again.
Would you say that your sunflowers are one of those things that you look at and go, that is magic?
Yeah, those were planted. It was all a COVID thing. I don't know how you experienced COVID, but I felt like the airways, televisions, everything was just filled with so much dread and doom and um, fear. And it just felt really heavy in our country and probably around the world. And I found myself wanting to put things into the ground that would bring beauty and would bring wonder and that people could go to a place outside and just be enveloped in this experience of beauty that would transport them from this place of fear into this place of hope and gratitude and wonder. And so I had a few moments where I bought, like, I found out they had a sale on tulips, and so I bought 20,000 tulips one
It's a
time.
lot.
Didn't really think about how long it would take us to plant it. I just was like, oh, it's a sale. And I bought a whole big bag of sunflower flower field flowers from Johnny's Seeds. And I was like, okay, we're just going to plant fields of things that are just for the purpose of beauty and for our community and try to help people move out of a place of fear of dying and fear of and into this place of um, seeing outside themselves and the hope for the future. And flowers have a way of just like redirecting you from inside yourself to outside yourself.
Absolutely. Well, that's so beautiful. I know that so many people come to see your sunflower fields, your tulips. So basically, from April until what, October, till there's a frost, you have beauty that's being spread amongst your farm for people to come and see and experience.
Yeah, I kind of feel like June's a little weak. I'm actually going to plant some peonies because I feel like peonies in our area are really popping in June. So I've
Huh.
been talking to a flower farmer. We're gonna, I think we're gonna trade some peonies for fruit. And I was like, we need to plant some peonies that grow in because we just need that window to stay open. Where
Yes.
once the tulips are kind of phasing out end of May, we need something going on in June. And then our dahlias, it's not peak, but we start getting some blooms in July.
Okay. Do you leave yours in the ground over winter?
We do not.
Okay.
I mean, Parkdale, I mean, if we don't, we lose roses because sometimes we'll get like a really cold winter day. And so not everything will make it. But um our neighbor up the street, Gordy Sato, he said he leaves his dahlias in year round. And I don't know if they're close enough to his house, but we have to take ours out they would not make it.
Do you know, are you zone 6B or 7B?
I want to say 7, but
Okay.
um might have to verify that. I think it,
It all re-changed recently, so I wouldn't be surprised if you were 7 because we moved to 8, which I still don't fully agree with because I think I'm still kind of a 7 with the wind. But I know zone 7 and below, you've got to dig your dahlias or you risk them
yeah.
not coming back every year.
Yeah, well, we're digging them up, washing them off, and then we put them in peat. We put them to sleep in peat moss all in our garage, which is kind of there's so much competing space in that garage. So there's definitely feelings sometimes about the dahlias taking up space in the garage. That's one thing I think every farmer needs is more storage.
Totally. Yes. I need more storage, especially on my small space. So
Yeah,
never
yeah,
can have enough storage
yeah.
space.
No.
And how many dahlias do you grow?
Oh wow. I don't know if I know the number, but guessing probably over 100. We got into dahlias because there was a flower farmer in the Dalles that reached out to us that said she was going to be retiring and she wanted to know if we wanted a deal on her dahlias. And we had never done dahlias before. And my mom and I were kind of talking about it. I'm like, yeah, let's try it because we had this wedding venue and we thought it would be a nice addition because a lot of our couples will come pick flowers for their wedding. So it'd be kind of like a business that would benefit the other business.
Totally.
So before we knew it, we were driving up to the Dalles and buying her dahlias and none of them were labeled.
Oh my goodness.
This is something that like makes us probably not the traditional flower farmers. We don't have them labeled. We just kind of throw them where they go. And the magic is in the quantity of them and being able to pick them. But we don't have like beautiful rows of the same dahlia down. And that's pretty intentional because it's like, I don't know if that's really our vibe anyway. So
You just have a very colorful vibe. You look out at your field and it's like a field of dahlias. You have your sunflowers. You have lavender too, don't you, right there?
yeah, we grow we planted culinary lavender because we were making gelato for a while. We've taken a little break from doing that, but like we definitely wanted some flowers that were edible too.
Okay. Well, regardless, it's a gorgeous site because it's all of these. And then you have your tall trees that line your property. And there's Mount Hood. And I promise I'll include some pictures in the show notes. You have to go visit today's show notes so you can see truly how majestic Trina's property is. I have talked to quite a few guests this year on the podcast, and there's one theme that comes up quite often, and it's that flowers feed the soul. And I think that really ties in with your farm because you talk about gratitude, hospitality, and bringing people to your farm. And I feel like if you go to Mt.View orchards, you're going to feed your soul. Literally and figuratively, you're going to feed yourself with delicious food, but you also kind of fill your soul getting to experience all these flowers. You are a mental health nurse practitioner. It sounds like a lot of this has been intentional.
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I were talking beforehand that September is like National Suicide Awareness Month. And in the farming community, there is a lot of uncertainty and things that don't go your way. So, unfortunately, the risk for self harm or thoughts of self harm is higher in the farming community. So, me intentionally planting things that were beautiful, welcoming, and just a delight for your eyes um, was to nourish people's souls.
It's really beautiful. Can you speak a little bit more to it? Because you, as a mental health practitioner or nurse practitioner, you work in a very special spot. You're not in a traditional hospital per se. Where do you work?
Yes, this is like dream job. I'm able to do telepsychiatry from the farm. So we have an office kind of out connected to our garage. And I work with veterans. I work for the VA Monday through Wednesday. And they're in the comfort of their home. I'm in the comfort of my home. I'm supporting their mental health journey, mental wellness, mental stability. And but I'm here. So, like, if I need to go turn on the water in an area, or I've even cut grass before my lunch break, or I can throw a load of laundry up into the dryer because I'm right here. I can't beat the commute. I love the population. It's an honor to serve veterans who've served our country. Um, their resilience, their gratitude, their just watching them walk through pretty unfortunate circumstances too is inspiring and empowering. And anyway, I talk to them a lot about growing things, planting things in their soil because the hope of a seed has does so much for your mental health. And people are putting their hands into soil, does so much for their immune system. And um, there's just so much beauty in growing things and how it affects your overall wellness as a person.
Absolutely. What would you say to someone listening if they are struggling with a mental health issue right now and they're looking for an outlet? Would you suggest that they grab a seed and put something in the ground, or what would your advice be to them or for them?
Yeah. Well, I think first thing is say something. Like, I think a lot of, uh, there's a lot of loneliness in dealing with mental health. Um, like anxiety, for instance, and that sense of urgency all the time, or this sense of not finding pleasure in things that used to find pleasure in depression, or intrusive thoughts that are racing, or that you can't get out of your head, or future worrying, or feeling like so much shame from your past. There's all these thoughts in all of us all the time, and not every thought in our head is true, right? And you need other people. You need community. You need like the mental health community. You need friends, and you need something that brings you hope. Whether it's planting a seed, or caring for your kids, or spending time with your pet, or something that inspires you for longing for the future. So I do think that gardening can be a great tool. I know that there's a bunch of grants. I also work half day on Thursdays in our local county jail with primarily people who are transient and have mental health issues, sometimes veterans, sometimes not. And a lot of jails are now planting gardens, and they're getting grants for gardens because it helps the time pass to be able to go outside and weed and nurture whatever you're growing, whether it's flowers or veggies or food. And there's just passing of time when you're watching something grow is a delight versus like a drudgery.
Absolutely. That's really incredible what you do. First, thank you for your service. That's really amazing that you juggle two very stressful jobs. Let's talk about some of the benefits of gardening from that mental health standpoint, if we can. You
Yeah.
mentioned just getting your hands in the dirt, in the soil. What does that do?
Well, there's so much research going on that you can affect your uh, neurotransmitters like your serotonin, your dopamine, your norepinephrine, having a garden outside. And there's certain foods that also promote those as well. So the more fresh food you're eating, the more time you're spending nurturing the soil, being in the soil can help produce more serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. Dopamine's that blissed out, happy, like joy. Serotonin is like cool, calm, collected, steady. And norepinephrine is like get up and go. I'm going to get up. I'm going to do the dishes. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to like weed this entire area. And we need all of those working well to feel like our best version of ourselves.
Totally. I know that when I'm just kind of feeling, I guess, lackluster for a better word, or lack of a better word, when I just am kind of unmotivated in the morning, if I just tell myself, okay, I'm going to go spend 15 minutes out in the garden, I get so energized and I come back in. Usually it's an hour later. Those 15 minutes suddenly become 1 or 2 hours, but I come in with energy and motivation and just a sense of better well-being. And it sounds like that's truly science backed. It's not just I'm out there doing this, but it's creating those feelings and those, I can't even say all those words you just said, the dopamine, serotonin.
Yeah, norepinephrine. Yeah, it's like better mental health, better immune system, better sleep, everything better. Like there's only certain activities where everything in the wellness of your body will be better, and growing things is one of those things.
I love that. So you said at the jail, they're actually getting grants around the country to help them grow a garden.
I know they have one in like the Oregon prison system. I don't think they do. They do some. The master gardeners do something with a greenhouse in the juvie section with flowers. So there's room for improvement in our area. We're like slowly kind of starting to incorporate some of that stuff. But yeah, if you look it up, there's a whole emphasis on like jobs, not jails, and learning skills, whether it's like learning how to like groom pets or like be a barber or be a farmer or learn how to work in a kitchen, because a lot of times it's really hard to break out of a system of addiction or something if you don't have something that you're looking forward to, or you don't have something that is better than your current status.
I love that. That's so great because it's creating that hope, that sense
Hmm.
of purpose too. I
Hmm.
mean, it's kind of like when you plant a seed, you feel like that connection all of a sudden deepens because you're like, okay, well, now I've planted it. So now I need to water it. Now it's growing. Now I need to watch it. Now I need to tend to it.
Yeah,
And
weed around it, keep the distractions at bay.
yeah, it kind of gives you this purpose that you didn't previously have of you're caring for something else. So besides just caring for yourself, you now are caring for another being. So if you don't have a child, or even if you have a child, for me it's like my babies are this extension of my life, or not my babies, my flowers are like thousands of other babies out there that I've that's maybe a
Yeah.
bad example, but like
I
you
know
just
you
feel
feel
that
vested.
attachment.
Yeah. No, you
Yes.
feel connected to, and as a caretaker too. And I think that's a total, like if you're a nurturer by design, women usually are, men too, in a lot of ways. It's like the act of nurturing nurtures yourself too. So the more you're nurturing your flowers out, you're nurturing your home, you're nurturing yourself.
I think that's why so many people during COVID turned to gardening. It was this connection with something greater than themselves. We felt alone and needed to feel like we were connected or served a greater purpose than just sitting inside our house watching the news all day long, waiting to see if we were going to be able to do anything again.
I agree. I think also there is a beauty in this idea that I'm growing this for somebody else.
Yeah.
And there's mission, there's purpose, there's duty, there's dignity. There's all these feelings when you're like doing something, not just for yourself, but for your community. And it feels good. It feels good like when people come onto the farm and have like a huge bouquet in their arms. Or I know that they're planting it, they're taking it for something special in their life or an occasion or for their wedding or for a memorial, or like flowers are like a symbol of you're bringing something to celebrate something or honor something. And so it's always a treat when we see people out picking and, the colors they choose. And some people stick with just one thing. Other people have, lavender and they have sunflowers and they have hollyhocks and they have dahlias and they're making more of a mixed bouquet. Other people just want sunflowers or they just want lavender. And um, I know it's a treat. It makes my heart always really warm and full when I feel like people are enjoying, our harvests.
Absolutely. It's always one thing to grow them and enjoy them yourselves, but your heart just kind of explodes when you see someone else enjoying what you've put your heart and soul into, and knowing that it has made a difference in someone else's life is just so beautiful to experience and watch.
Yeah. I've even said at a few of our weddings because sometimes they'll, take them and then they'll work with a florist and turn it into something. I'm like, those are our flowers. And I'll almost be surprised by it because it's, yeah, no, it's so, what a gift that we can like grow something that we're passionate about, that we find beauty and joy in, nurtures us, and we can use it to nurture others. I mean, it's a win-win-win.
Absolutely. Oh, you just summed that up so perfectly. Trina, we've talked about so much today, from your legacy farm to everything that you're growing on the farm, to growing dahlias and brix levels, to mental health and nurturing ourselves and feeding our souls. Is there anything I haven't asked you today that you want to share with our listeners today?
I would compel everybody listening to find out which farms on in your community are have a welcome mat out, and try to intentionally shop with your feet, drive out to those places, try to get stuff from the people who are in the farming profession, mix it up, go to a few farms, don't just go to one, like try to know people at a few farms and be a consistent consumer of local fruit, flowers, wine, beer, because um, these professions only work if people partner with them. And farms want to be successful. We need farms in our community. The only way it works is if we have partners, community partners. So wherever you are, there's probably some form of agriculture or some person who's trying to make a living growing something. Find out who that is. Try to be somebody in their corner. Try to be an ally to a farmer.
I love that. That's such great advice. And as the consumer, you're going to enjoy such fresher produce or fresher flowers. If it's food, it's going to have so much more flavor because it's harvested at the right time. It's not harvested early so that it can be shipped across the country
Mm-hmm.
or to another country for that matter. So you're getting like that truly vine ripened peach that is just full of juiciness, or that bouquet of flowers that's just primed for picking and that's going to last you that week in the vase, and you're going to get to experience the whole life cycle. I love that. That's such a beautiful advice for everyone. And right now is the perfect time because it's harvest for so many things. It's dahlias are in full bloom. Do you have your sunflowers in bloom right now?
Oh yeah, it's epic right now. Like we have acres of sunflowers. Come on out to the farm if you are longing for. We don't charge an admission either, so come on out, enjoy our sunflowers, and um, it would be a treat if anybody listening would come on out. If you see me, please say hi, and um, we grill all these things with you guys in mind. So come on out. We'd love to have you on the farm.
Amazing. Well, Trina, for those that are not yet familiar with your venue and your farm, how can they find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have websites. So it's Mt.View with that's MT, Mount View Orchards. Our tasting room is called the Grateful Vineyards. But inside that tasting room, we also pour our beer, our cider, and we have some food pairings like pizzas, charcuterie board, salads. Our wedding venue has its own website. It's Mount View Orchards Weddings. UPIC's open right now every day, 10 to 5. Um, so I don't know. It's fun. August and September and October are magical time and abundant time to visit a farm. So if you can sneak away this is the time to do it. It's going to change your perspective on living in Oregon.
Absolutely. Well, I will include links in the show notes today so that people can find your farm. And if they do come out to your farm, not only might they see you walking around the farm, they might also see your parents still riding on the tractor.
Oh, yeah. My parents are out there, my husband out there, Kenny. We have an amazing group of agriculture teammates who help us. We have awesome teammates in our farm stand and in our tasting room and the vineyard caretaker. I mean, this has all happened because we have a group of people who believe in this farming dream and show up every day to make it happen.
Well, that's amazing. We so appreciate you taking the time to join us today while you're in harvest and to share about your journey and just sharing a little bit of gratitude and abundance with all of us. So it's been such a pleasure to chat with you. And maybe I'll see you this weekend. My daughter and I need to come pick some peaches. Are peaches still in season?
Yeah, we still have you pick peaches right now. And yeah, we'd love to have you out. One of my favorite quotes, just to end with this, is that farming is a profession of hope. And hope and gratitude are pretty connected in my mind. Like, I almost feel like hope can be like a weapon in front of you, or gratitude can and shield you from what's going on in the world or circumstances or outcomes on your farm. So I feel like farmers have to carry both of those like weapons around their body. And I love being a farmer. I have only fallen more in love with it as the years go by. That's not because everything's gone well or circumstances have been easy, but because of those beliefs that I have and those kind of things that I carry in my heart, it makes farming really enjoyable.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Trina. It's been such a delight to chat with you today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. If you're eager to deepen your dahlia knowledge and connect with like-minded dahlia growers, you're invited to join the Dahlia Patch. We're offering a 1-month free trial exclusively for our listeners. Just click the link in the show notes to get connected with our thriving community. Hope to see you in the Dahlia Patch. Thank you, flower friends, for joining us on another episode of the Backyard Bouquet. I hope you've enjoyed the inspiring stories and valuable gardening insights we've shared today. Whether you're cultivating your own backyard blooms or supporting your local flower farmer, you're contributing to the local flower movement, and we're so happy to have you growing with us. If you'd like to stay connected and continue this blossoming journey with local flowers, don't forget to subscribe to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast. I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave us a review of this episode. And finally, please share this episode with your garden friends. Until next time, keep growing, keep blooming, and remember that every bouquet starts right here in the backyard.